Greetings campers, welcome to Farmeritaville. This is a special edition of Farmeritaville. We're here and I'm going to show you a little bit of a lights on peek here at Dark Hour Haunted House for the 2023 Halloween season. So without any further ado, let's get inside because it's hot out here and it's Texas and the sun's in my eyes. Let's go. Welcome to my home haunt, Dark Hour Haunted House, right here in Plano, Texas. This is the grand entrance where all the magic begins. What I want to do with this video is just kind of take you guys through a lights on tour. We're going to look at some of the stuff with the lights on and you're going to see how it looks on a day-to-day basis when we're here working on it. I see it more often this way in the light than I actually see it in show conditions. So it's a little bit of flip-flop. You guys as the audience, if you come here in the real life audience, you don't get to see it like this very often. So this is what it looks like in 2023 with the lights on. Come on, follow me inside. This is the first room. This is where you learn about the coven. The main backstory is a coven of witches, 13 witches, so the show is loosely divided into 13 different sections, each section kind of reflecting that individual witch. And so here in the very first room, you get a good look at all 13 witches with the group photo and general witchy stuff. And around the room, you can see that we have individual portraits of all 13 witches. And we elected to do this as drawings because having them appear as drawings gives us liberty to kind of change up, attributes, bells and whistles when we cast this as a real person. Also, you may be casting multiple people as one of these characters any given night. So having them appear first in cartoon form gives us a little bit of leeway and flexibility to interpret them later. Our first section is the Halloween Village. This is a great big section. It's very deep. We have lots of classic Halloween-y stuff like the jack-o'-lanterns behind me. Jack-o'-lanterns everywhere. It screams classic Halloween. And there's depth in this scene. As you can see, it's a huge reveal. As soon as you walk around the corner, you get a great look at the front of the house, the clock tower, and pumpkin mania going on up there. And the centerpiece, obviously, of the Pumpkin Village is the Pumpkin King up here, and he kind of, moves back and forth slow and easy and does his thing, and he's got another pumpkin minion back there, and he kind of gyrates around. You can kind of tell in this light, but all of the jack-o'-lanterns in here are dry brushed with neon orange ultraviolet paint. So we hit a lot of this with black light as well as the other ambient show lighting. And it doesn't really come across as your typical haunted house glow-in-the-dark area, but what it does is it pops that UV paint. So amid all the other lighting and background scenery, the jack-o'-lanterns really come into focus and pop under the bright light. Now we're in the Wolfman area. You got all these Vardo wagons. It's kind of like the carnivals coming to town from the really old Wolfman movies. And you've got fortune tellers and wolfmen and werewolves coming out of the trees in every nook and cranny. But what's really interesting about this room is that it backs up to a wall that we couldn't move. It's a permanent firewall. So we decided to get a little bit creative with our paint job. If you take a look up here, first what we did with this wall is we painted it black. Then we took a mist of blue UV paint that reacts to black light, and we did a mist of blue paint. Then we took black paint and we hand painted trees over that blue paint, and then we sprayed blue paint again. And then we repeated this process a few times, and the end result is layers of trees that look like they disappear in the distance in the night sky. And then we went over the last layer and put those white stars that pop. And all of that is hit with black light. Nothing down here on the ground is hit with black light. So it's really kind of a unique effect when you look at it under showtime conditions. Now we're in the vampire area. It's all the vampires under Lilandra, the vampire witch. And this first room is kind of like a great hall, like your introduction to the house that we're now inside of. And one of the coolest things in here is these giant paintings. These were bought at auction from, I believe, Warner Brothers. Don't quote me on that. But these were screen-used props from the 1999 movie The Haunting with Owen Wilson, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Liam Neeson, I think, was in it, a handful of other people. But these were screen-used props used to decorate the sets in that film. And we wanted to put in a big room so that we could show these off. And the scale of them is just monstrous. And now you walk around the corner and come into this room where you go face to face with Lilandra, the vampire witch herself. She'll stand up here on top of this deck. She'll look a lot better than I do. And she does her lines. She has a microphone on so you can hear her voice. And as she gets right down close to where you are, she has this special effects pedal and she'll lunge and she'll do her magic. And now we're in the lair of the Goblin Queen. The Goblin Queen is one of the coolest looking witches because her makeup has tons of color and layers. She's got big horns and big sharp teeth, and most of all, big wings. These wings back here, as you can tell from me standing, have about a 6-foot wide span. And as you walk around this platform that she's on, she's gonna swoop down the table with her giant wings, and they're gonna go right over your head anytime she moves. This is our great big giant laboratory, and the centerpiece in here is Frankenstein. And we just kind of wanted to do like a classic steampunk looking laboratory, but we updated it by putting monitors around Frank to show all of his vital signs and whatnot. And it's the great centerpiece. The funny part about it is that Frank is all foam. He's super duper lightweight. He weighs less than the table that he's attached to, and he was a pretty easy build. The other part of this room, though, is all of these vials up on the wall. These are actual antique lab glass from, I want to say, the 1960s. I'm not really sure. But those were donated by a friend of ours, and we were trying to figure out how to put them in here and keep it safe. So we decided, all right, we'll put them up high. But this was time consuming because we had to build the cabinets that they're in. Then we had to build the holders that are holding them up. None of those teardrop shaped vials had stands to hold them upright. So we had to fabricate all that, then we had to paint it all, then we had to glue every single piece in place so it couldn't move and fill it with all the various colored liquids. It was extremely time consuming. All that to say that you breeze right past it. It's very much background action. Frankenstein up here is obviously the star of the room, and he was made in, I think, about a day, matter of hours, super cheap build to actually make the Frankenstein monster. This is the lair of the three sisters, three blind sisters who share one eye, and you see the eye is right over here on this altar, and right above the eye is the sisters themselves. Now, what I want to point out about these is we sculpted all of these in-house. It's latex skin, they're all foam filled and foam backed, and this is just canvas that's covered in like a drywall type mud. But what's interesting is that we recycle a lot of stuff. So if you look at the left and right sister really close, especially the nose, you notice that they're the exact same mold. All we did was reshape the mouth on this one. That one is pretty much how it came out of the mold when we did the sculpt. And before we even did both of them, that's a recycled sculpt because it used to be a Krampus head for a large Krampus puppet. We just got rid of the horns, got rid of the teeth, and turned it into old crone. This is a Farmeritaville exclusive because this room that we're standing in is brand new for 2023, never seen before, and this is the bone tree room. Obviously, it's a big old tree made of bones. But the whole idea around this room is that everything is overgrown. Moss and fungus and everything. It's just very earthy and everything has overgrown. There's mushrooms and stuff growing out of the wall. There's a corpse over there that has mushrooms and fungus growing out of it. But the really lost treasure in this room, in my humble opinion, is this young lady right here. This is a body that's obviously being reclaimed by the earth, as it were. But the actual body underneath here, you can see this is like a hard resin. This is an actual mold off of a real person, and this was donated to us by our friends over at Biddy Mold Supply. They were cleaning the shop and they said, here's some spare stuff, do you want it? Whoever the model was for this was totally nude at the time. They covered her in silicone and made this mold. So he gave us a naked woman body with no head. And that head is actually our friend Laura, who helps us out with a lot of our media stuff. A lot of the staff here has a life cast. We all have life casts of our heads, so you never know. Most of the corpses here might have one of us on it. Welcome to our version of ancient Egypt. This is the area of Corva Hive, the Witch of Swarms, who we put an Egyptian spin on, so there's a lot of mummy aspects, mummy elements. Of course, you got the sarcophagus right here. You got this guy right here. This room is very wide open, and so the scares can come from a lot of places. The other cool special effect in here is that during showtime, there's video mapping. There's 6 projectors in here that crisscross and project bugs crawling all over the walls in firelight. And there's typically a stilt actor in here and or a slider actor who may slide right at you. Also, from your point of view, where the camera is right when you walk in the room, this looks like a big grand chamber and very well closed in. But that's also an optical illusion. The ceiling on this room is wide open, it doesn't really have one, but the simple tattered pieces of cloth overhead really make it look like that there's a solid ceiling when you come in. But with all the stuff that's going on in this room, here is my favorite sneaky special effect that we put in. Mirrors. Can you see the mirror? This is a mirror, which means when you walk in the room, you think you're looking down the side just like everywhere else, and there could be a monster hiding right behind there and they're gonna get the drop on you. Now we are in Town Square, Old Town Square, late 16, early 1700s, the witch burning era. And this is the facade of Town Square. So you got, you know, your toy shop, your chandler, your blacksmith, all that good stuff. But this facade is completely recycled. We used to have an asylum area, and we had a facade that looked like the front of an old 1800s asylum, and that was all of these buildings and windows. We recycled them, redressed them, and now they are Old Town Square, where there is a witch burning. And of course, the whole theme of the show is witches, and witches are all powerful, so she doesn't stay burning. She's gonna lurch right out at you and maybe kick you in the face if you're too close. But that's an animatronic that we added last year, and it's really one of the more impressive animatronics, I think, that we've got in the show. This is the Wigwam Village. This is the area of the Red Woman. She's very tribal. She wears leather, and she's got big antlers on her head, and they're all red and bloody with little bits of flesh hanging off. And you're gonna see wendigos, you're gonna see yetis running around in here. That's the primary monster under her control. You're also gonna see tribal trappers, pioneersmen with their coonskin hats. They're trying to stay warm and outrun all this chaos in the snow. People love snow, even if it's fake, and so we make it snow in here, and it's always a ooh-ah moment when you walk around the corner into this room. But what's really fun about this room is the layering up top. Obviously, all of these fake birch trees are white, and they're going against the black background of the building, so it's a very easy theatrical sell because the contrast in the dim light is so harsh, and the layers that go back of what's painted on and what's actually there in 3D sell themselves very well in the dim lighting of the show. This is the obligatory vortex tunnel, and I say that because lots and lots of haunted houses have these, but if you've never seen one, it's exactly what it looks like. I'm standing on a long bridge, and this is a drum, a lightweight aluminum framework wrapped in a skin that just rotates around, and it makes people very disoriented. So much so that we decided to put a camera in here so that we can watch and laugh at their reactions every night when they walk through here, and they can't tell if they're really moving or not. But I'm going to tell you, you're not moving. Everything is an optical illusion in here. Now we're entering the climactic section of the show. This is the Nightmare Realm. And the thing about the Nightmare Realm is that it's almost completely pitch black. This whole section is very dark, so there's a lot of tactile stuff. There's also a lot of weird stuff that doesn't make sense. Like this guy right here. This is an animatronic we got last year called the Flasher. It's exactly what it sounds like, but what's under there is not exactly what you think. It's actually very gory and very interesting. And it's just a fun piece that I thought, like, you know what? That would go in the Nightmare Realm. Let's put that guy in the Nightmare Realm. Right behind the Flasher, we have this big, beautiful mural that Robert, our media guy, painted. And this mural looks great in the dark, big, bold black lines, lots of really light color, so it looks good in any lighting. But you notice the serpents on here. This was actually painted for our St. Patrick's Day event in 2020. We were going really snake heavy on the theme, drive the snakes out, St. Patrick, we have a lot of snake monsters and stuff. Well, March of 2020, that show did not happen. So we came back and we were kicking around ideas for this section being the Nightmare section when we were redoing it, and we decided, you know what? We've seen this thing every day for the last several months. To us, it's not new, but we still haven't shown it to customers. We haven't been open since this was painted several months ago. So it looks great, just leave it. We don't need to do anything new. After all, it's a nightmare. Doesn't have to make sense. Your nightmare now takes you into this lovely little Voodoo Shack, which is absolutely a byproduct of some voodoo themes that we did many years ago. This is the last remaining area. You've got all this great detail in here, little jars and bits of hair and things hanging off the wall, different herbs and twigs and very voodoo-y stuff. But you see the witch hat right there on the wall. That must mean that there is a witch hanging out nearby because it is still very much under control of the coven. So along with all of your tribal, voodoo, herbal stuff that you need to cast curses is the greatest fear of all, a baby. That's right, it's a demon baby. Because what's more terrifying than parenthood? This is just another animation we picked up cheap. It gets a great scare and the baby lurches out right at your face, coming out of the shadows. And once again, it's a nightmare. It doesn't have to really make sense. That leads us into the red hallway, or as I like to call it, the eyes wide shut room. And if you guessed that the actor in here is dressed just like one of these mannequins, you are absolutely right. But the other cool thing about this room is that it is lit with a very slow strobe. And those long gaps allow the actor to move around, who's used to the frequency of that beat. The customers aren't used to it, so you never know which one of these guys is gonna move. These guys are really lightweight. They are made of a half bucket of concrete on the bottom with a piece of PVC. And then the head and shoulders are foam. And this is a cheap robe and a cheap mask. Boom, instant mannequin. There's about 20 of these guys in this little space. And during the pandemic, we took some time off, as did a lot of people. But there were 3 of us who took turns watching the building. And the joke evolved, which was to scare each other using these guys. So you would walk in and you would turn on the lights in the bathroom and there'd be one of these guys in the stall, or you turn on office lights and there'd be one of these guys behind the desk. So by the time it was all said and done and we came back to work, we had to round up these things from all over the building because they had been scattered everywhere with the 3 of us trying to prank each other in the off season. Now you come face to face with the Nightmare Witch. The Nightmare Witch is just a shape. She is a silhouette, a creepy shadow with spindly fingers and droopy bits, and so she is illustrated right up there on the platform over my head, where she is strapped in nice and tight in front of that softly glowing neon orange moon, and that's about the only lighting in this room. You notice that there's just a lot of black walls and black drapes in here. That's because it is pitch black with the exception of the moon highlight. So she comes off as this creepy living silhouette, and as she droops down, the blackness that is her shape kind of envelops the whole room and becomes the blackness that's all around you. And there's just a little bit of a sprinkle of red light to pop the surface of the water in here. Dark water is a big, big phobia. It's up there with spiders and clowns. People don't like dark water. And so your attention immediately goes to her when you walk around the corner and see this room. And then as you're getting closer to her, you realize you're standing right on top of really dark water that's bubbling, and you don't know what's going to come out of it. And that's where the psychological trickery starts, because nothing does come out of it other than bubbles. The actors are on the outside, and the real scare comes around the corner. You've walked under the Nightmare Witch around the corner into what we call the Gauntlet. Remember, this is all pitch black, so now you're wading through these sticky latexy ropes, and then you're pushing through strands and strands of fabric that are hanging down in your face, and it seems like it's never going to end. And as you're pushing through all those strands of fabric in the darkness, wondering where you're supposed to go, an actor, bam, they're going to pop out and they're going to get a loud scare because they have a button and there's a speaker and there's a little bit of black light. So their makeup is all UV, all black light based makeup. So as you're pushing through the stuff in the darkness, whoa, you just get a quick pop of this face, and then it disappears as quick as it showed up. And then you just got to keep working through it till you get out the end. And then right as you get through the last layer of fabric, boom, another monster hits you from this curtain and pushes you right out into the gift shop. Thank you for joining me for a quickie lights on tour of Dark Hour Haunted House. If you're here near Plano, Texas, be sure to come check it out whenever you get a chance. Go to the website, go to the social media stuff. We do off-season events. I said do. There are off-season events other than Halloween, so you'll have plenty of chances to come see Dark Hour in all of its witchy glory. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe. You never know when more behind-the-scenes features like this may pop up right here in Farmeritaville, so keep your eyes glued for what's coming up next. Take care, everybody. Get out of the house. Go do stuff.